Okay, we're about to start chapter 2. I apologize for the change in the visual. My camera, it wouldn't be a video for me if my camera didn't die. I need to buy more battery packs. Oh, and please bear with me for the parts. If I try to drop the parts back to back to back to back, TikTok will withhold my videos because they'll think I'm spamming. So I'll probably post like part 1, and then like in 30 minutes to an hour post part 2, 30 minutes to an hour part 3, because I don't want TikTok to think I'm spamming. So, chapter 2. Everyone has that friend who just gets it. For me, that friend was Melanie. She balanced me out with her outspoken and unapologetic personality. I was the thinker and she was the doer. I kept things inside and she blurted them out. A little too much. Melanie and I became friends shortly after I arrived freshman year. I'd gotten called to the front office to pick up my ID a few days after Ryan's orientation, and when I got there, a girl I'd never seen before was standing at the desk in front of me. "Okay, Miss Reyes, here you go." Again, the secretary was saying to her as she handed her an ID. "Try not to lose it this time," she added. "Thanks, Carol. 4th time's the charm," the girl, Melanie, chimed. "Loving the top, by the way." She grabbed her ID and turned toward me to leave, and I remember being taken aback by how beautiful she was. She had dark, wavy hair that gracefully decorated her shoulders, gorgeous cheekbones, long, beautiful eyelashes, and curves women often paid for. Carol seemed less than impressed with Melanie's charm, however, and I had to hold in laughter at her reaction to a student calling her by her first name. The tag on her shirt read Carol Stripe, but I was almost certain she and Melanie weren't on a first-name basis. Of course, that was only assumption based on the fact that Carol was a middle-aged white woman who likely had kids older than we were. "May I help you, sweetheart?" Carol asked, turning her attention to me. I approached the counter and wrote my name on the sign-in sheet. "I'm here to pick up my ID card," I informed. "Oh yes, you must be Gabrielle," Carol said, scanning her desk. "I know I had it here somewhere. I must have misplaced it." "Carol! There was another ID stuck to the back of mine," Melanie said, swinging the office door open as she made her way back inside. "Yes, that belongs to Gabrielle here," Carol confirmed. "Thank you," I said as Melanie handed it to me. I scanned it and smiled at how nice it had turned out, just as Ryan said it would. "Miss Reyes," Carol called out as Melanie made her way back to the exit. Melanie stopped in the doorway. "Yes?" "Please, from now on, call me Mrs. Stripe," Carol asserted. "Aw, but I thought we were getting so close, Mrs. Stripe," Melanie whined playfully. "That's because you keep losing your ID, Miss Reyes." "Well, why do we need to wear these things anyway? My teacher should know my name by now." "I don't make the rules, hun. Have a good rest of your day," she finished, taking her seat again at the front desk. Melanie stepped aside and held the door for me, and I awkwardly brushed past her. "Thank you," I said. "You're welcome," Melanie replied, joining me at my side as we proceeded down the hallway. "Your ID picture came out really good, by the way." "Thanks. Ryan took it for me a few days ago," I explained, analyzing it again. "Ryan? Ryan Alvarez?" she asked in disbelief. "Yes," I confirmed, looking at her in confusion. "Oh my God, you're the new girl I've been hearing about." "Come on," she said, taking my hand and pulling me into a nearby women's restroom, barely taking a breath before she started again. "So, how was it? I need all the details. I heard people saying Ryan was with a new girl, but it didn't make sense to me because Ryan's always been single, but now I see they literally meant a new girl. You're new, right? Or did you lose your ID like I did?" I chuckled at how fast and energetic Melanie was when she spoke. It was almost overwhelming. Uh, yeah, I just transferred here a few days ago. Ryan showed me around the school for my orientation and took my ID photo for me," I explained. "What were people saying?" "Oh, nothing bad, don't worry. It was mainly just the guys on the basketball team talking about a new girl who was with Ryan when they got to class the other day. When the freshman girls got wind of it, it started circulating like crazy, but no one knew who they were talking about, she explained. Oh, I sighed in relief, leaning against the sink counter. Well, it was me, I confirmed nervously. He must be pretty popular then, huh? Melanie joined me against the counter. Are you kidding? The girls here have Ryan fever, I swear. I mean, obviously he's cute, right? But I think the fact that he's not a man whore and plays hard to get makes them want him even more. So yeah, he's definitely popular. Oh God, I feel like I just walked into Animal Kingdom. Please don't tell anyone I was the one with Ryan. I don't need girls making me their enemy before they even know me. I won't, Melanie agreed, sticking up her pinky for a pinky promise. I giggled and interlocked mine with hers. I'm Melanie, by the way. I just realized I never introduced myself. Gabby, I replied. From that point forward, we stuck together, and the restroom became our safe haven. It was where we debriefed one another on events and confessions that simply couldn't wait until after school. Eventually, during one of our restroom sessions, I confessed to Melanie that I liked Ryan, and ever since, she'd become my biggest advocate for telling him how I felt. When Ryan started dating India, Melanie became even more adamant that I tell him. She saw firsthand what seeing them together did to me. I ate less, slept less. I was overcome with heartbreak and anxiety. When I progressed past my sad phase, I hit denial. I convinced myself that it was just a fling and it'd all be over soon. But Melanie didn't care, fling or not. That could have been you and you know it, she'd tell me. The further senior year progressed, the more she brought it up. She wanted nothing more than for me to have the chance to be happy with Ryan, or to at least say I'd tried. Her newest tactic was to narrate Ryan's actions in the halls of the school to emphasize that he was often doing things without me or with India instead. Oh, look, there goes the love of your life, living his best life without you because he doesn't know how you feel, she narrated dramatically to me one day as Ryan walked by with his basketball teammates. The varsity team had a tournament that was pretty far away, so they were leaving before our last class period. The bad news was, I wouldn't have him next to me in sociology to talk to. The good news was, he wouldn't be there to hear me scold Melanie for loudly narrating my love life for all to hear. I pulled Melanie into our sociology class and dragged her to our seats. You've really got the keep it a secret thing down pat, Mel. Congrats, I scoffed, referencing my feelings for Ryan. Yeah, you know it's nobody's fault but your own, right? It's January now. 5 more months and we're all graduating and heading our separate ways, Gabby. Are you going to hold on to this forever or finally tell him how you feel? She asked, taking out her pencil pouch. We, of course, had this conversation a million times, but now that senior year was halfway over, it actually started to sink in. 5 months left? It hadn't really occurred to me that high school was almost over. I hadn't even thought about what I wanted to do after we graduated. I mean, I knew I was going to go to a community college and knock out all my core classes, but that wasn't until the fall. Melanie would be starting a pre-nursing mentorship at our local hospital this summer, and Ryan would most likely be busy with basketball like he usually was. But me? Well, I didn't know what I would do with the rest of my life yet. During class, I sat there, ruminating on our inevitable graduation and what was to come after that, hoping that my future plans would spontaneously present themselves to me. It wasn't until a nudge from Melanie ripped me from my thoughts that I realized that the entire class period had gone by. I hadn't heard a thing. Okay, so to close out, I'll be introducing your final projects, which will be due at the end of the school year. I want you to attend a social event for a group of people you aren't familiar with. Analyze the group's culture and customs and document your experience. Simple, but it must be structured according to the rubric that's being passed around, Mr. Nicholson explained, handing out a stack of papers to the first person in each row. I made sure to grab an extra rubric for Ryan, as was our routine whenever one of us missed class. I was pretty apathetic to all my teachers, but Mr. Nicholson was my favorite for the simple fact that he didn't take himself too seriously. He was laid back, nice, and made things simple to understand. But still, no matter how much I liked the teacher, there was one thing I would never like: projects. Wow, I should have known my day was too good to be true. I had no homework from any of my teachers, and then the very last one drops a whole project. I complained as I threw my backpack on Melanie's bedroom floor and collapsed into the beanbag chair next to her bed. Guapo quickly jumped into my lap and took his usual position. I would often spend the afternoons at her place or Ryan's. Sometimes all three of us would pick a house and get our work done together, but during basketball season, it was usually just Melanie and me. Melanie sat on her bed, glued to her phone. I glanced at her, waiting for a response. Nothing. Mel? She finally spoke. Is it something to worry about if Marcus randomly starts following a new girl on Insta? It's probably nothing. It's nothing, right? Did I ever tell you how great of a listener you are? I said sarcastically. I'm serious, G, she whined. Girl, you and Marcus have known each other for so long. Why are you worried about who he follows on Instagram all of a sudden? You know that boy has had eyes for you since he learned how to spell eyes, I told her. Marcus was Melanie's boyfriend. They'd been dating since the end of junior year, but had known each other since pre-K. One day, he finally mustered up the courage to admit how he felt about her, and it worked in his favor. Maybe I should have taken notes from Marcus. Anyway, Marcus didn't go to the same high school as us. He went to a fancy charter school a mile down the road. They technically shared athletics and extracurricular programs with our school, so he often went to sporting events and dances with us. But I think the distance was starting to get to Melanie. It's not just some random girl that he followed, Gabby. He followed Lindsay from the dance team, she explained. I stared at her plainly, trying to figure out Lindsay's significance. She was the captain of the dance team and very pretty, but also very shallow. Being pretty was basically her personality. You know who Lindsay is, Gabby. Well, yeah, I know who she is. I'm just trying to figure out why you said it like she's a threat to your relationship. I sat up in her beanbag chair and propped my elbows on my knees. Guapo adjusted himself accordingly. It was honestly shocking to see someone who was so confident and bold to the rest of the world turn around and question her worth over a boy. I'd never seen her like this. I'm just saying, she's pretty. Scratch that. Gorgeous. And he just followed her on Instagram. He probably wants her instead of me, but saw me first and now he's stuck with me. Melanie sighed. You know who else is pretty? Scratch that. Gorgeous. That he follows on Insta? I asked, pointing across the room to her reflection in the vanity. You! And you're way more interesting than her. You're beautiful, smart, funny, good at painting chickens. The list goes on, Mel. I smiled as I watched her crack up at my chicken joke, but I was very serious. Melanie was an amazing girlfriend and an even better best friend. I refused to let her think otherwise. Why are you worried about this now anyway? You've been dating each other since last year, I pointed out. I just get worried that things are going too well sometimes, you know? Like maybe it's too good to be true. It's like I'm so attached that I'm scared to lose him, especially with senior year winding down. What if we don't last past graduation? There's so many other beautiful women in college, she admitted. I know the feeling, I sighed. Well, not exactly, but I understand you. We fell silent for a moment. I knew breaking her insecurity would be way harder than telling her to love herself. That was usually easier said than done, and not very helpful to tell someone anyway. What's kept you from telling Ryan how you felt all these years, Gabby? I mean, I understand being nervous that he doesn't feel the same, but has he ever made you feel like he'd reject you? Melanie finally asked. I haven't told him because I don't want to lose the only guy I've ever created a bond with. I know there's a chance he feels the same, but it's the chance that he doesn't that I'm scared of, you know? What if I tell him and it messes up the friendship? I thought for sure being friends was a guarantee that we'd always be in each other's lives, but I'm scared that I've started to lose him to India. I guess I've just felt hopeless, like no matter how tightly I cling to someone, I can't control if I lose them in the end. Like how I lost my dad, I explained. Damn, Gabby. I didn't even think about the situation with your dad. I'm sorry, she said, throwing herself back onto her bed. That's tough, she followed, staring at her ceiling. Another small silence fell between us. I had lost my dad when I was very young, too young to remember. My mom told me he died in his sleep, and the doctors couldn't figure out the cause of death. So I knew from an early age that sometimes losing others was beyond our control. I just hated the feeling that losing Ryan to India might have been another thing I couldn't control. You know what? Melanie started, raising herself back up. Losing your dad may have been something you couldn't control, but losing Ryan doesn't have to be. The only thing you can control is you, what you do or don't do, and what you do or don't say. But what if you lose Ryan because you dared to have a crush on him, then Ryan, Melanie exclaimed, causing me to clutch my invisible pearls. That was brutal, even for her. Melanie! Okay, that was harsh, but seriously, G, I can't think of anything more ridiculous than for Ryan to know you have feelings for him and decide that he doesn't want to be your friend because of it. Ryan is honestly too sweet to be that guy, and deep down you know it. Besides, you don't know if you'll lose Ryan because of his relationship or because you drift apart after high school or whatever else. But if you do lose him, don't you want the peace of mind of knowing you left it all on the line? Nothing unsaid? Melanie had a very strong point, and she was absolutely right. Deep down, I knew Ryan wouldn't ditch me for having feelings for him, but I was clinging to every possible fear for dear life just in case. You're right, I admitted. I know I'm right, she chimed. So are you going to tell him now or what? Just as I started to answer, I got a text from my mom, and rather than finish my sentence, I grabbed my phone, leaving Melanie in suspense. I need more fruit for my smoothies. Stop by the store on your way home. Surprise me this time. Sorry, Mel, I gotta go. My mom wants me to run an errand, I said, getting up. I grabbed my untouched backpack and hugged her before I left. The truth was, even after her amazing speech, I still wasn't sure if or how I would tell Ryan how I felt. This isn't over, she called as I left her room. On my way home, I stopped at a nearby store to get my mom her surprise fruit. This wasn't my first time fetching her groceries on my way home, but I always felt so clueless in the produce section. Was this what being an adult was like? Walking through food aisles, saying, "Ooh, that looks good," and throwing it in your basket? Because if so, I had it down pat. Adulthood, here I come. All jokes aside, though, the more I thought about growing up, the more I realized I wouldn't know what I was doing. Like, what the hell was a mortgage? How does one pay taxes? And cooking? Psh, I couldn't even cook ramen noodles without forgetting about them boiling on the stove. The tangerines are really good. My thoughts were interrupted by a dangerously handsome guy who was smiling down at me, most likely in amusement. He had glowing chocolate skin, a muscular build, and a beautiful smile. I'm sorry? I said nervously. The tangerines are really good. I come here after almost every game to get some, he explained. You looked sort of lost, so I thought I'd give a suggestion. I took a second to analyze his attire, only to realize he played basketball for our school, which meant his glow was probably just sweat from his game. But Lord knows this boy was fine, glowing or otherwise. Why haven't I seen you before? I thought. Thank you, Daniel, he said, reaching out for a handshake. We haven't properly met. Daniel, I repeated as I shook his hand. There was something about him that scared me. Maybe it was how easily he talked to me, even though I was a stranger. Or maybe it was that I wasn't used to cute guys talking to me at all. Besides Ryan, of course. Well, thanks for the suggestion, Daniel. Hopefully my mom likes them. I smiled shyly as I placed the tangerines in my basket. He smiled back and then made his way down the aisle. I couldn't leave with just one kind of fruit, but I had no idea what paired well with tangerines. Strawberries? No. Blueberries? Raspberries? I don't even know what those taste like, I muttered to myself. I looked around to see if anyone was watching me struggle and caught eyes with Daniel again. I gave an awkward lip smile and quickly turned away. Fuck it, I sighed, snatching a bag of mixed berries from the shelf. When in doubt, pick them all. As I made my way to my car, I spotted a piece of paper on my front windshield. Oh shit, I thought. It had to be a ticket. I may or may not have double parked in 2 spots reserved for motorcycles, but I was only going to be in the store for like 2 seconds anyway. Mom's gonna kill me, I said to myself, only to breathe a sigh of relief when I realized my guilt had fooled me. It was a flyer. Jesus Freaks present The Holy Lituation, a Bible study like no other. Get lit by the light of Jesus Christ. March 16th from 8 to 10 p.m. 1112 Church Ave. So corny, I laughed, tossing the flyer onto my passenger seat. I could barely go 5 sentences without cursing. The last thing I needed was to send someone's saved and sanctified grandmother into cardiac arrest with my vocabulary.